The eightfold of adventurers take to the grand journey once more in Octopath Traveler II, created under director Tomoyo Asano's vision and developed and published by Square Enix. Initially released on February 24, 2023, this second installment within the Octopath series offers a much more confident journey than its predecessor, maintaining the strengths of the first game while honing in with improvements that were almost immediately apparent to any returning player. Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel, and today I bring to you my much overdue review of Octopath Traveler 2, a game that I ranked as my second favorite game of 2023 in my end of year roundup. But I wanted to discuss this game in a little bit more detail because it truly deserves that spotlight. Before we jump right in, I just want to say that if you end up enjoying this video, please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to my channel for more RPG, Nintendo, and general gaming content. And with that out of the way, let's get stuck in. Perhaps the single biggest upgrade over the original Octopath Traveler has got to be its world building and design. In the first game, the world felt quite cluttered with towns that didn't really need to be there, and the lack of having the stories of each party member overlap in some form or another didn't really help either. More or less, it felt like I was going from Basic Fantasy Town number 1 to Basic Fantasy Town number 2, which had a slightly different layout. It is the complete opposite then with Octopath Traveler 2. Towns feel incredible and are highly vibrant with many secrets to uncover. Solistia has come unto a budding industrial age, with large ships becoming commonplace for travel. Towns like New Delsta and Clockbank are ready to make the most of the new era. Meanwhile, the Hinuema clans of the southwest deserts cling to the sword, the lush jungles of Totohaha embrace the ways of nature, and the bountiful harvests of the Leaflands allow for merriment and commerce to flourish. Additionally, each region plays host to several of the characters' chapters. There are additional chapters where your characters are paired with one another, and all of this goes to really allow the player to view towns in a different lens through the perspective of myriad NPCs and situations, many of which are far more memorable than those of the prior entry. The inclusion of distinct day and night settings and the respective doubling of path actions also provides more things to do within each town. A large chunk of story dungeons are often located next to or smack in the middle of each town, further solidifying how many of these hubs just become that much more integral and memorable as compared to the first iteration. Map layouts and also dungeon room layouts felt more refreshing as well. All of these only aid the journey as our party members embark on their own respective travels, but that too also differs from the first Octopath Traveler, in that certain motifs and elements creep their way into most of the cast's stories. Hikari and his brother are possessed of a viciously dark intuition, creatures of shadow roam about the jungles, and an intricate scandal is covered up by followers of the Sacred Flame. In essence, Solistia is a world that thrives off of the building blocks of its highly thoughtful design, as well as the convergence of its themes. I also want to give a very strong shout out in particular to Partitio's quest design. The choice to have points of commerce within his questline had not only the option to sail around the overworld at your leisure, but also unlock a lore room detailing much of the world's history. Absolutely fantastic, and it truly added to the enjoyment that I had of the merchant's adventures. The quality of life changes don't just stop there, however, but are also very evident in the small changes to combat that really make all of the difference. While break and boost mechanics remain largely the same, it's the changes to the party members themselves that make all of the difference. Most prominently is the addition of latent power, a new feature to combat that provides each character with their own signature move, regardless of their secondary class. Each of these are tailored to the character and can really affect the flow of battle. Let Hikari's blade dance with one of 3 special skills, feel like Roy Mustang from Fullmetal Alchemist as Oswald focuses his magic upon a distinct foe, or have Temenos smite through his opponent's shields regardless of their weakness. And would you believe me if I said that it's actually Casti's latent power as an apothecary that really takes the spotlight for me? That's because I firmly believe that as compared to Octopath Traveler 1, the Apothecary and Hunter classes received the greatest quality of life features. Casti's latent power, every drop counts, makes it so that you don't expend any ingredients when concocting, allowing you to save your most potent resources and reliably activate them routinely throughout combat. This only shines further with the Merchant support skill Full Power, letting Casti start each encounter with a full latent power gauge. So yeah, I essentially turned her into a full-on potion master, and it felt fantastic. But whereas Apothecary received a strong buff due to the addition of lane power, Hunter received one singular change in design philosophy that really let it shine. And that was, it removed the limiting number of uses for captured prey. This change removed a lot of the fear and trepidation that I had playing as Hanut, not wanting to expend my uses of tamed beasts, but such a simple change greatly increased my enjoyment of the class to the point where Ochette was a staple on my team. In fact, the only class I would say I was disappointed with in terms of combat was still gonna be Merchant, as it didn't really receive any noteworthy changes in my opinion. Overall, combat felt similar to what we had come to expect, but the smaller changes to individual character abilities as well as latent power definitely smoothened and enhanced the experience. Character customization felt just as great as the first Octopath, but I did feel like I enjoyed making more use of the unique items this time around, such as the Blessing in Disguise accessory turning negative stats into positive ones, and turning my Ochette, who I threw all my cursed gear onto, an absolute demon on the field. Speaking of negatives and positives then, I suppose I haven't been all too critiquing thus far, and that's a testament to just how enjoyable a ride Octopath Traveler 2 is. But I do have some things I wish were just touched upon a tiny bit more. For one, I still dislike that almost every chapter follows the same pattern. Go to town, meet person, conundrum happens, and then you use one of the main party members' path actions to progress to a dungeon where a big bad is sicked on you by the bigger bad. Obviously, that's not a one-size-fits-all description for every single story chapter, and the writers did a great job in making each character's route have a lot of intrigue or the desire to see what happens next. But the base gameplay is what it is. I'd argue that there was some experimentation like deduction times with Temenos or the Colosseum chapter with Hikari, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. As for combat and character growth, I feel that many of the bosses introduced in each character's chapter 3 and onward became progressively easier to beat. I feel that this is largely due to another critique I have, which is the bottlenecking of levels and difficulty as a result of constraining all 8 character members so that they would largely match each other in terms of pacing. As a result, once some of my party members, and especially my protagonist choice, became stronger and stronger, my power began to greatly outscale most enemies, including bosses. It got to the point where I vividly remember two-shotting both Casti's and Agnia's final fights. A part of that could just be that I went ballistic on customization, but I still feel that endgame enemies could have had a little bit more scaling, perhaps being adjusted with your protagonist's level in mind. I also don't feel as if Octopath Traveler 2 has a lengthy enough post-game. By the time you've made most of adjusting your characters and concluding all their stories, there's really only a handful of mobs standing between you and the super boss, but once that's said and done, you've really not got much else to do in the game. Perhaps the answer would lie in side modes like arenas or boss gauntlets, or perhaps simply in extending the post-game with a few additional dungeons to scratch the itch for just a little bit longer, but I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what its developers decide to iterate upon next. Overall, Octopath Traveler 2 is an extremely solid and beloved HD 2D adventure, and one of my top games that I had the luxury to experience in recent years. With its solid roster of lovable characters, set in a world of intrigue and thoughtful design, Team Asano have me waiting hungrily for their next eightfold journey to be announced. But that is where we are going to be calling it for this video. Have you had the chance to play Octopath Traveler 2 already, and if so, what did you come to enjoy about it the most? I might also work on a character ranking video if you guys would like to see that, so please be sure to let me know in the comments down below. But with everything said, I hope you all have a great day.